The end of another solar year and the beginning of a new one. It's been a really important thing for the last at least 6,000 years in various places around the world. So welcome to our Winter Solstice special.
Yay!
I'm Jack Cox, author of Love Not Fear.
Here you go. This is Jack's book, Love Not Fear.
And I'm with my gorgeous co-host Annie Day, who's written 2 scrumptious books.
Orgasmic Health and Your Guide to Feeling Fabulous Fast.
And my good mate Barnabas, who's written
All You Need Is Love.
Is love.
Love is all you need.
La, la, la. All you need is love.
All
La, 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 la. All you need is love. Love.
love.
Love is all you need.
Love is all you need. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, and this book. And the link below, poems and essays all about love
Yay!
in its various
Beautiful book.
guises.
and a jolly good book it is too.
Indeed.
It's worth it just for the painting. My friend Leda did the painting. It's in oils and it's in such great detail. It's just beautiful. So it's worth buying it just for the cover.
Right, so Yule, the winter solstice, spelt Jul, J-U-L in modern Norse, and Jol, J-O with an accent, L in Old Norse, is the winter solstice celebration in Scandinavia. For societies dependent on agriculture, this is a very important festival. Theirs is a very challenging climate, and the winter brought many deaths from cold and starvation. Yet the solstice brought hope as the days gradually at first started to grow longer. Yule, then as now, is a time for communal gathering, feasting and honouring of the gods, coming together on the shortest day of the year to celebrate the return of the light. Yay! Winter in Scandinavia can feel like a lifetime. Not only are you hit with daily temperatures below freezing, well below freezing often, but the sun seems to emerge very rarely, if at all. I mean, I know I was blessed to have spent a winter solstice in Norway, in Oslo, a few years ago. And it's bloody cold. And the snow was thick the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
You think you've had winter in England, you haven't got a clue. However, one of the biggest tourist attractions in that part of the world are the winter activities. Hardier people than me actually go there for the skiing. And the modern day inhabitants do their best to make the best of it too. In Viking societies, the celebration of Yule was one of the most significant festivals of the year and was traditionally held around the winter solstice. It wasn't always held on the exact day. They probably didn't have any way of calculating the exact day.
Maybe.
They weren't the most technically advanced society, were they?
Thankfully.
But they had big swords and axes. They also had the blot, B-L-O with an accent, T, a ritual culling of livestock, similar to the Irish Samhain that we mentioned at the time. Of course, the Christian monks who wrote about it tried to make it out to be a bloody sacrifice. But it wasn't a sacrifice. In the true sense of the word, a sacrifice is giving up something in order to get something else. It was a ritual slaughter, but it wasn't a sacrifice. None of the food was wasted. None of the meat was wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
Got salted down to feed community over the winter.
Exactly.
And of course, I'm going to diverge a little bit here now, because something very, very similar happened the way that the Druid history was written up.
The what?
Druid history.
Oh, right.
Because,
Okay.
because, of course, our own Druids were written up as being into human sacrifice and all this nonsense, which there's no evidence of whatsoever.
Yeah.
The Druids weren't just the priests. They were the whole intellectual class. So they would have been the magistrates, they would have also been the executioners, and they would have been the priests. Now, if you've got an execution going on in America, where they still have executions, and there's a priest present, does that make it a ritual sacrifice? No. Sorry. Right. The fact is that they wouldn't want to keep too many animals alive. We're going back to the Vikings now. The fact is they wouldn't want to keep too many animals alive over the winter. Only the best would have been kept back for breeding, and the rest would have been salted down to feed the people over the winter, as I just said. We know very little about their actual practices of worship, aside from this one act of the blot. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Any Norwegians or Danes or Swedes listening in, please correct my pronunciation. I mean, Scandinavian languages are so precise when it comes to pronunciation.
Well, they're going to be on to good hiding for nothing with both of us tonight, Jack, because just looking at Kupak, I don't think that's going to be that correct.
Beat me up, Scotty.
Mate, I did all the research last night, as I told you, for traditional ways of celebrating the winter solstice all over the earth. So,
I mean, when I was in Norway, and also I spent some time in Denmark a few years earlier, I had a Danish girlfriend at one time. And I just tried to be polite, that was all. I just tried to say thank you in their own language. It's the only word I learned. So I used to just say, Jack, Jack. I'm like, what are you saying? That's not how you pronounce it. So I don't bloody know anyway. So anyway, the plot involved the ritualistic killing of livestock, such as pigs and cattle. Prayers were chanted for thanks, prosperity, and protection during this sacred ritual. They must have felt very vulnerable at that time of year, the coldest time of the year. The winter there is so fierce that they sought divine intervention and protection, and why not? They lost a lot of people every winter. The wild hunt represents a spiritual journey through the darkest days of winter, led by Odin. This was an era before the advent of accessible food. There weren't any supermarkets or grocery shops. All the food they had to grow themselves or hunt themselves, individually or as a community. Bitter cold temperatures brought the need to stay warm, accumulate calories, and consume life-saving fats. Hunting was one of the few activities that could continue during the winter, in the snow and the ice. This not only provided a pastime, but was also a valuable source of food. I think that's probably not just in the Viking society, but generally. I think that's probably why hunting, not foxes, not that nonsense, but proper hunting for food, also became a sport, because it was very competitive, and they had great fun as to who would bring down the boar. The young fit men of the village or community would go on a great hunt, trying to capture a prized animal, such as an elk or a boar. And if the gods were with them, maybe even a stag. The animal was often, or not always, but usually presented as the centerpiece of the feast. In fact, feasting was an essential part of the celebrations and
Absolutely.
festivities. Absolutely. You can't get through the day without a good feast. You can't get through the winter without a good feast.
No, exactly that.
These feasts are high points of communal celebration and could involve vast quantities of food and alcohol. Ale and mead were particularly popular. I haven't had mead for ages. Have you had mead and Annie recently?
No, I'm a non-alcoholic girl, aren't I? I've got zero tolerance for alcohol, so it would just make me pass out. So that's not as much fun as it might sound.
No.
The last time that I
what
did
about?
that was 8 years ago. I went to a Druidic weekend festival, and I had a little weeny tiny bit, and then went to my tent and slept until 10 o'clock the next day. So my tolerance level is legendary, I'm afraid.
So we never to get you on your back. What about you, Barnabas?
Some might.
We
What
went
what
to
about you, Barnabas?
we went to Lindisfarne,
Mhm.
and they had mead to sample and to bring
Yeah.
home with you if you bought it, and we bought some. So yeah, that was probably about 3 years ago. So it is a while ago, but it's just, well, if there's ever a sample to be had, then you try it, and if you like it, you buy it, and if you don't, you don't. But I did like it, and I brought some home.
I must say I rather like it, but as same with Annie, mead gets me drunk very quick. But that's no reason not to have some. So hunts and feasts would help strengthen social bonds, as well as providing inspiration for the skaldic songs and sagas. The skalds, I may be pronouncing that wrong, were the equivalent of the Druid bard, the magical poets and storytellers. I think that's probably where the saying having a good scolding comes from,
Yeah.
I
Makes
mean,
sense.
nobody would have thrown boiling water over kids, would they?
No.
It's the bards or the scolds would have told them off. The symbolic themes of this time of year would include the return of the light, rebirth, and renewal. The hunt was held in such reverence that it became part of Norse mythology. And indeed, it came across to Britain too, didn't it?
Yeah.
There's a belief in the wild hunt, the spectral procession led by deities and other supernatural forces led by Odin himself. And the British version, we have where Herne the Hunter leads the wild hunt through Windsor Great Park. And that could have come across from the Viking occupation or from the Saxon occupation. And that didn't last very long, did it? What were the Saxons were here for, what, 400 years before they had their butt kicked by the Normans, who were not French. They weren't Franks. The Normans were, I'm going off topic here, but the Normans were actually Norse people. They'd come down from the Viking lands and taken Normandy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So ultimately, we were actually conquered by the Vikings.
Well, there's a surprise, eh?
Not a lot of people know that. I've got to put on my Michael Caine accent to do that, haven't I?
No, it's good. It's good. It's always good to add laughter medicine to our show, Jack, as we know.
In Celtic tradition, the winter is ruled over by the Holly King. The Oak King or Green Man rules over the summer. Now we've spoken about this loads and loads and loads. So if you want to find out more, look up our summer solstice special last year,
Yeah.
or the year before, or that, yeah, well, never mind.
Oh, definitely last year. Definitely last year, darling.
Yeah, we do it. We mention it every time. It's an important part of our mythology. It's an important part of British mythology, and so many people don't even seem to understand that there is a British mythology.
Yeah.
Not taught in schools, is it? They get the Greek and the Roman. They don't get our
Nothing
own.
useful is taught in schools. We're just taught to learn untruths and then regurgitate them. That's not education. That's not education, is it? Anyway, moving along swiftly.
Cue a Pink Floyd song.
Yes, indeed. We don't need no thought control. How right they were.
Yep. Right, up until medieval times, the Holly King was represented by a boy who walked around the town accompanied by his bride, the Ivy Girl,
Yeah.
teasing and laughing and taunting each other in a kind of ritual courtship. The tradition goes back millennia and symbolizes the courtship between the earth goddess and the reborn sun god. You may recall the old carol, The Holly and the Ivy, where the holly wears the crown, but hands it over to the Oak King.
Exactly that.
The Oak and Holly Kings are two aspects of our ancient god of the sun, rising and falling, as he is forever reborn at the winter solstice. This is an ancient and recurring motif across the world and seen in other sun gods like Mithras in Rome. In Britain, the sun god is known by many names, and his story is kept alive through many tales, such as that of Mabon ap Modron, son of the mother, the child of promise, who we've spoken about before on this show.
Indeed.
Whenever I see an nativity scene, I always tend to say, "Hail Mabon, child of promise." He is still honoured by the Druids at the winter solstice, who reap his sacred seed, the mistletoe, with a golden sickle. He brings life back to the land. At this, the darkest time, try closing your eyes and look within. In the distance is a tiny pearl of flame. This is the sun within you. As you breathe, the solstice sun grows in power, reaching out its rays. It touches your heart, bringing life and renewal. May its blessing fill you with light. The Celts are believed to have had their origin in India in some long, long distant past because of the similarities in culture and language. But they migrated west through Central Europe, leaving a huge mark on the Central European culture. They were highly mobile, traveling with trade goods from the Baltic to Central Europe, and later west as far as Britain. There are lots of different Celtic languages still alive and well on the western fringes of Europe. There's still a huge, I mentioned this before, there's still a huge Celtic culture in northwest Spain, where I spent quite a lot of time. Different groups had different customs and beliefs, and some groups didn't celebrate the winter solstice at all. And some people like to say the Celts didn't celebrate the winter solstice, but it's not that simple. We have evidence that at least some of the groups did. And part of that evidence is the Mabon ap Modron story. It's hard to know exactly what the Celts did because they had a taboo against writing sacred things down. But we modern pagans like to celebrate everything on the basis of any excuse for a piss up.
Exactly. Any excuse to be gathered in communities and to be celebrating. It's a good
Absolutely. Any
idea,
excuse to
isn't
have
it?
a party, to have
Yeah,
fun,
yeah,
to be with other people
yeah,
and have fun.
indeed.
Pagans are a fun-loving people. We're not pious. We're a fun-loving people.
I think everybody is, Jack, whether you're Celtic or not, or pagan or not. I think that is our essence. We're fun-loving, beautiful souls.
Who was it that said that we're the otters of the universe, just having fun?
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard that, Jack. Could be
I think
Douglas Adams. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go along.
it could have been Douglas Adams, it could have been
It
Richard
sounds
Barker.
Douglas Adamsy, but actually I've no idea. I'm just making a very odd guess.
Right, the winter solstice has always been a big part of British culture. As I've shown, we have our own Celtic version, Mabon ap Modron, the child of promise, reborn every year at the winter solstice. Now, that's not to say that Jesus didn't exist. I'm not saying that. I've got a great deal of respect for the guy, but we've absolutely no idea when he was born. And if you want to know more about that, look at last year's show. We don't even know what year he was born, let alone what month.
And really, it doesn't matter. We don't know exactly when Mabon happened either. We don't need that information.
We don't need that
just need to
information. It was
interact
convenient.
with
It was
that
convenient.
beautiful warrior energy, basically, the
Yeah,
peaceful
it was
warrior's
convenient.
energy.
Can
It
I
was
put my
convenient.
four-penny within?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the at Bible school we were told that Jesus was born in 4 BC because it says in Luke's Gospel that he was born when Quirinius was governor of Syria. And they said there's no such governor in Syria, but some archaeologists found a plaque to the governor Quirinius, and he was the governor in 4 BC.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
Barnabas. That's very interesting.
that is very interesting. But it is also true that, according to the Bible stories, his parents went to Bethlehem for the census, and the census was in 6 CE. So there's a bit of confusion there.
So yeah, but that was actually the bit that I was quoting. The when Quirinius was governor of Syria is when Mary and Joseph went for the census.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Barnabas. And we have the pagan revival in the mid 20th century when Wicca and Obod Druidry were both birthed. Then people began revisiting the pre-Celtic megalithic sites like Newgrange and Grainan in Ireland, which are aligned to the winter solstice. There's no one correct Celtic name for the winter solstice, even if it was a thing. Many modern pagans like the term Alban Arthur from Obod Druidry, or, excuse my pronunciation, I'm going to do my best, all right?
That's all we can ever do, Jack.
On Grian Stehod, which is simply Irish for sun standing still.
Okay.
Sun appears to stand still, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And another name that's sometimes used is Mian Grevi, which is just Irish for midwinter.
Yeah.
I will actually put these words up on the screen when I do that. With the correct spelling. And then people can tell me how I should have pronounced it.
I think anybody watching our show knows we're doing the best we can to explain stuff. And I don't think people give a kipper's dick how you spell it, to be honest. But that is only my own personal opinion, obviously.
Couldn't give two knobs a goat shit.
I don't even know where I had kipper's dick from. I think it was from a head teacher at the last school I taught.
It's a good school.
Absolutely.
In Scotland, the solstice is known as Face Sheening, the Feast of Shinbone, which may have something to do with bull sacrifices, but I could hardly comment. In the islands, the Scottish islands, an offering of special brewed porridge is given to the sea god Manyanan, who they call Sion. No, I'll write it on the screen. I can't.
Okay.
It starts with an S. But in the rest of Britain, we call him Manyanan, Mananan. And of course, the Greeks called him Poseidon. The solstice is also when grain, Grian, retires in favour of her sister Annie. There you go, your favours, Annie.
Oh, absolutely. I am very famous, or infamous, it may be.
Just as Annie retires at midsummer. So that's the Holly King and the Oak King in a different guise, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here the same story is represented by two goddesses.
Yeah.
The same themes keep reoccurring over and over and over again. I mean, we did a show last week about mythology, and that was an hour and a quarter show. I managed to get it down to an hour and a quarter when I took out all my coughing and spluttering, which, as you've noticed, is gone.
Yeah, well done, Jack.
Hey! Tunes. But yeah, the same themes keep recurring all over the world in different guises, different names, different name gods, different name goddesses, slightly different stories. It's all the same story. The thing is that nobody really knows what the Celts did or didn't do, what they celebrated or didn't celebrate, because they didn't write anything sacred down. So that's all I've got for us tonight. What you got for us, Penny?
Well, Jack Cox, have I got a treat for you?
Oh, yeah.
So, winter solstice, for centuries, cultures around the earth have turned winter solstice into a time of great celebration. Some use this time as the countdown to Christmas. Some bring their own light to the night with fires, candles, and music and feasting. Mythical monsters of the winter solstice. In Finnish mythology, it's told that Loki, the witch goddess of the north, kidnapped the sun and moon and held them captive inside a mountain, causing the darkness of winter. The Yupik people, indigenous to the Arctic, tell the story of Kogukakpak, subterranean monsters with bulbous bodies and frog-like legs who could only be killed by the sun. So on the winter solstice, the Kogupak emerged to hunt and eat mammoth carcasses, was said to be the corpses of the ones who stayed out too long and died when the sun returned. In Greek mythology, the Kalikanzaros were angry, hairy gnome-like creatures who lived underground and tried to cut down the tree of life. Like the Kogupak, they could also be killed only by sunlight and emerge during the solstice to wreak havoc on homes and villages. They were reputed to be rather dumb and unable to count past 3, so the very clever villagers put out colanders to ward them off. The Kalikanzaros would end up trying to count all the holes in the colanders until sunrise, and then they would have to go back underground where they could cause no more mischief.
Mm-hmm.
Winter solstice, gods and goddesses. During the winter solstice, there were also stories about kinder beings, and a variety of gods and goddesses were worshipped, like Tonantzin in Mexico, Calipera in Scotland, Horus in Egypt, and Spider Grandmother by the Hopi. Winter solstice has also been known to celebrate the Earth's regeneration and rebirth. and the Scandinavian goddess Diwe is associated with health and fertility. It was believed that she travelled through the night sky in a structure made of reindeer bones with her daughter Beowulfnehi to bring back the greenery on which the reindeer fed. For this reason, she was worshipped during this time of the year. In Italian folklore, La Befana is a goddess who rides around the world on her broom during the solstice, leaving candles and gifts to well-behaved children. Placing a rag doll in her likeness by your front door or window, they thought enticed her into your home. Maybe.
Maybe.
And then Tomty. It is the dead of night. The old farm lies fast asleep, and everyone inside the house is sleeping too. The farm is deep in the middle of the forest. Once upon a time, someone came here, cut down trees, built a homestead, and farmed the land. No one knows who. The stars are shining in the sky tonight. The snow lies white all around. The frost is cruel. On such a night, people creep into their small houses, wrap themselves up, and bank the fire on the hearth. There are many versions of the Tomty, who is called Nisse across Scandinavia, and he is usually depicted as no taller than 3 foot tall, sorry, not 3 foot long. Don't know what I was thinking about, but there you go.
Big tears to the eyes, Eddie.
So he was actually 3 foot tall, and he had a white beard and a pointy red woolly hat. These stories come down from hundreds of years of oral tradition in which he was equally kind or sneaky or helpful or devious. In many of the stories, included Lindgren's, he takes up residence at a farm where he only appears to the children and takes care of all the farm animals. He protects them from harm and is known to have a temper towards farmers who neglect or mistreat their livestock. A bowl of porridge is often set out for the Tomty in order to stay on his good side, but I like the sound of him. If he was cross with the farmers who mistreated or neglected their livestock, I think that sounds like, you know, a decent man, doesn't it? Or a decent
Absolutely.
energy.
Yeah.
So winter solstice festivals and celebrations around the world. Winter solstice is also a day that has been celebrated around the world for thousands of years in many different cultures. Sun festivals include the Hopi Indian festival of Soyal, the Polish celebration of Godi, Greeks' Brumalia celebration, and the Hindu celebration of Makar Sankranti. Easy for you to say.
Oh, very good. Very good. You've been practicing.
I so have. The Feast of Jule. This was a pagan Scandinavian winter festival when Yule logs were burned and fires were lit to symbolize the heat and life-giving properties of the returning sun. It was believed that the Yule log had the magical effect of helping the sun to shine even more brightly. The Festival of Shamos. The Festival of Shamos was a Pakistani celebration in which a small number of Kalashi or Kalashkafir people observed the ritual of baths as part of the purification process. There was also singing, chanting, dancing, bonfires, festive eating, and a torchlit procession. The celebration lasted for at least 7 days, and it is during this time that the demigod Balomain passed through the Kalesh region. He is said to be collecting prayers as he goes and is worshipped during this festival. I like the sound of this one, Jack. The 7 days of feasting and frivolity appeals to my hedonistic nature.
Absolutely. No, I'm up for that. Yeah. When can we go?
Yeah, I know. I know. Origins of the festival in Dongzhi, China, is very important for the Chinese and other Eastern Asians. The Dongzhi festival occurs on December the 21st or 22nd, when the sun is at its weakest and the daylight is the shortest. This is the first day of the Dongzhi solar term. Origins of this festival go back to the yin and yang philosophy of balance and harmony in the cosmos. With the hours of daylight increasing, there is an increase in positive energy flowing to all of us. Traditionally, this festival is a time for family gatherings. Families in southern China often make and eat tangyuan balls, which are balls of glutinous rice, which symbolize reunion. In northern China, dumplings are traditionally prepared and eaten. This is said to originate during the Han Dynasty, when Zhang Zongjing ordered his apprentice to make dumplings with lamb to help keep the poor children warm and to keep their ears from getting chilblains.
Oh,
Oh no, that's really lovely, isn't it?
oh.
I know. You don't want chilblains on your ears, do you? These and other
Going
festive
anywhere else
foods.
either.
No, I've had them on my toes and it's fairly painful as well. These and other festive foods also serve as a reminder that you are now another year older.
Yeah. Mm.
Today, many Chinese around the world still believe you are a year older right after the Dongyi celebration.
How does that work
Saturnalia.
out? Because I'm getting a year younger every year. So how does that
How
work
are
out?
you? Oh, well done, Jack. Well done. Sounds good to
I can
me.
kid myself, can't I?
Yeah. My second master teacher, who was also my Reiki master teacher, when she got to 88, she went, "That's it. I'm not having any more birthdays. I think 88 is a really beautiful feminine goddess number, and I'm not getting any older." So for the next 10 years, June was always 88. So if it's good enough for June, I think it's probably good enough for Jack Cox as well.
I'll have a pint of that.
um, Saturnalia. Saturnalia is an ancient Roman pagan festival honouring Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. It started on December the 17th and generally lasted for 7 days. The festival began with rituals and sacrifices at the Temple of Saturn, at the end of which the crowd was dismissed with the cry of Io Saturnalia, a sign for the happy festivities, family parties and other gatherings to begin. During this week of celebration, all work and business came to a halt. Schools and courts of law were closed. Hooray!
Yeah.
Romans spent Saturnalia gambling, singing, playing music, feasting, socializing, and giving gifts to one another. It was a time of role reversal where Roman masters feasted with their slaves, who were given the freedom to do and say whatever they liked. In many households, a mock king was chosen. It was usually a lowlier member of the household, crowned Saturnalia princeps, or leader of Saturnalia. This person was chosen through the hiding of coins in cakes and often called the Lord of Misrule. They were also responsible for making mischief during the celebrations, laughing at the guests, wearing colourful clothing, and much more. The idea was that he ruled over chaos rather than normal Roman order. During this time, homes were decorated with boughs of laurel and evergreen trees. Lamps were kept burning to ward off the spirits of the darkness. Temples were decorated with evergreens, symbolising life's continuity. Scandinavian countries celebrate winter solstice with feasts over a period of 12 days. Now, I like their thinking. I think that's that would just kind of blend straight into Christmas then, wouldn't it? So nowadays, countries such as Sweden merge this celebration with that of St. Lucia, in which people light fires to ward off evil spirits. The indigenous Hopi people of present-day northern Arizona celebrate the winter solstice as part of their religious tradition, honouring Kachina or Katsina, which are ancestral spirits representing the natural world. During the soil solstice ceremony, which is led by a tribal chief, the sun is welcomed back to its summer path with ritual dances, gift giving to children, prayers for the coming year. Singing and storytelling were also part of the festivities. Prayer sticks and kachina dolls are often made in preparation for this wonderful celebration. Shab Yalda in Iran. This ancient Persian festival, like many winter solstice holidays, celebrates the end of shorter days and the victory of light over darkness. Meaning birth, Yalda is marked by family gatherings, candles, originally fires that were lit and fed all night, poetry readings and a feast to get through the longest night of the year. Nuts and fruits, including watermelon and pomegranates, are traditionally eaten at this time. Legend has it that eating the fruits of summer will protect you from illness in the winter. Spot on. Spot on. Winter Solstice Lantern Festival in Vancouver, British Columbia. To honour the many cultural winter solstice traditions, Vancouver's Secret Lantern Society created the day's annual Winter Solstice Lantern Festival. Participants can attend workshops to create their own unique lanterns. On the night of the solstice, processions march throughout the city, culminating in fire juggling, fire performances, and attendees can also try to find their way through the labyrinth of light, a maze of 600 candles that invites visitors to let go of old patterns of behaviour, old thoughts, and to find new possibilities for the new year. This year, the festival is taking place from November the 24th to December the 21st. That's a decent festival, isn't it? Bit longer than the one night.
Get a few drinks down your neck in that time, couldn't
You
you?
sure would. Toji, Japan. The winter solstice in Japan, called Toji, has a few interesting customs associated with it. Traditionally, a winter squash called kabocha is eaten, one of only a few crops that would have been available in days of old. You'll feel as if you're on a warm winter getaway after taking a hot bath with yuzu citrus fruits. The bath is believed to refresh the body and spirit, to ward off illness and to soothe dry winter skin. Apparently rodents called capybaras love yuzu baths as well, and in a modern twist on the age-old tradition, some Japanese zoos will throw the fruit into the warm waters the animals soak in on the winter solstice. Santo Thomas Festival, Guatemala. Although the Catholic Church now observes the Feast of St. Thomas on July the 3rd in Chiquistangaro, Guatemala, the festival is still celebrated for a week leading up to the winter solstice of December the 21st, likely because it's a mix of the Catholic ceremony with native Mayan rituals that may have been timed to the solstice. Today, the feast features brightly coloured traditional costumes, masks, prayer flags, parades, fireworks, music, making Guatemala a great winter destination. The highlight is the death-defying custom of the flying pole dance, climbing a 100-foot pole, tying on a rope, and then jumping off the top.
I've seen that. It's spectacular.
I'm sure. So, Soil Hopi tribe, the indigenous Hopi people of present-day northern Arizona, celebrate the winter solstice as part of their religious tradition, honouring Kachina or Katsina, which are ancestral spirits representing the natural world. During the soil solstice ceremony, which is led by a tribal chief, the sun is welcomed back to its summer path with ritual dances, gift giving to children, prayers for the coming year, singing and telling stories are also part of the festivities. Prayer sticks and kachina dolls are often made in preparation for this celebration. A quick slurp of my lovely peppermint tea.
Glug.
And local honey. It's lush.
Beautiful.
Donji, South Korea. In South Korea, the winter solstice is known as Donji. One of the winter solstice rituals includes eating a red bean porridge called patjuka. Red is considered to be a lucky colour, so the dish is meant to keep bad spirits away, while embracing good wishes for the coming year. Other Dongji traditions include giving calendars, as Korean kings used to do, and socks. And this is a day where Koreans wish for snow, as cold weather on the winter solstice is said to bring about a bountiful harvest. Like that.
Yeah.
The Shaloko Festival is a multi-day celebration culminating in the winter solstice, in which Zuni men dress and adorn themselves to embody the spirit of the large deities. They then carry prayers for rain to all the corners of the earth, encouraging the deities to provide balance and blessings in the year ahead. However you are celebrating the winter solstice this year, have fun, wrap up warm, and enjoy the coming sunshine.
Well, thank you very much for that, Andy. That was absolutely gorgeous.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had lots of fun researching that. It was lovely.
You got anything for us, Barnabas?
Well, next Monday is Christmas Day, so I'm assuming there isn't a show next week.
I hope not.
No.
Because I won't be here. I will be in sunny Hensford with my lovely sister and brother-in-law, and I will have spent part of Christmas Day with the lovely Wilson and Richard and Shelby. So now I'm not thinking of doing a Christmas Day. Well, Jack's
and then, of course, the following week, it's New Year's Day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's...
so we could have 2 weeks off, couldn't we?
Yeah, I know. So...
go gallivanting.
I just wondered if we ought to bring attention to what we were saying earlier, the Gospel of Luke, it says, in those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be enrolled. And then I'd forgotten this bit. This was the first enrollment when Quirinius was the governor of Syria, and all went to be enrolled, each to his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David. And the thing about Luke is he's trying to put it into a historical context, the story of Christmas. However, I also looked at John's Gospel, because John doesn't mention the Christmas story at all, but he does mention light. And it says in the beginning of John's Gospel, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become the children of God. And yeah, so the thing is there, the reason why I'm quoting it, rather than making it up from my memory, which is obviously what I did with Luke, is that it's light. And it said he came and dwelt amongst us. So I think I mentioned this last year's show. The word dwelt is a translation of the word tabernacled. And the Feast of Tabernacles is when God came and dwelt with men. And that was at the end of September, the beginning of October. So according to the scriptures, Jesus was born in late September, early October. And what the Christians have done is they've just taken over Saturnalia and said, we'll have that, and we'll turn that into when Jesus was born. But I like John's Gospel because it talks about light, and that is the time of year, the solstice is where we're actually got the sun standing still in the sky twice in the year, solstice in the summer and solstice in the winter. And here's the light of the world. I think John's got it by a mile, that he's talking about the light. And that's why so many Christians are persuaded that he should be born at this time of year, because John is talking about the light of the world.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks for
Barnabas.
letting me say that.
That's brilliant, Barnabas. Thank you very
No,
much.
that's really good. Thank you, Barnabas. Thank you.
That's a lovely, lovely story. Thank you. Right. So
we're having
why
2 weeks off, lovely Jack Cox.
let's have 2 weeks off, lovely Annie.
Okay, I can do that.
2 weeks of drunkenness and debauchery.
I don't know about the drunkenness, but certainly I won't be sober.
Just going with the debauchery, are you, Annie?
I'm just going straight with the debauchery, yes. And my lovely son and daughter-in-law and grandson will be flying back to
lovely.
Dubai on New Year's Eve. So, yeah, it'll be quite moving. It has already been just so lovely. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to what's left of our time together. Face to face, anyway.
You enjoy your family time, Annie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, my lovely co-host Annie Day.
What were you making me do then?
Did you see that? Co-host was wrong.
I don't know if I want to be
Thank
a
you,
coach
Jack, as
yet.
well, for all the
I
efforts that you
haven't
put
had a
in
drop.
all the way through the year.
That's
So
kind of you,
thank you,
Barnaby.
Jack,
Thank
as
you.
well, for all the efforts you put in through the
Yeah,
year. Really,
exactly. And all the editing, Jack.
Well, thank you very much for acknowledging that. And to my good friend Barnabas, who always comes on with interesting material every week.
Yeah.
If you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, please do like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you all again in the new year.
Namaste.
Namaste.
namaste.